Welcome to Creating Smarter Spaces, where we explore the intersection of technology, innovation, and the built environment. Produced for corporate real estate, facilities management, and workplace technology executives like you, this podcast is your go-to resource for staying ahead of the ever-evolving world of smarter spaces. Digital signage, propaganda machine, or productivity tool? In this episode, I'm going to talk about how to get the most value out of digital signage solutions. Most organizations have one today, but if you ask most employees, they don't find the material they distribute to be very valuable. So how do you get this right? This episode is going to be about the importance of splitting content and distribution, and why taking a human-centric design approach to your content distribution process is pivotal in your program's success. I'm your host, Michael Pruscilla, and this is Creating Smarter Spaces. Now let's dig in. I remember my first job out of high school. I worked in a supermarket managing the stockroom. We had a lunchroom with a pin-up board, and in Tuesday's stock delivery from the warehouse would come a big vinyl yellow satchel with a really heavy zipper on it. And inside that satchel, amongst a whole bunch of other things, were the corporate bulletins that were to be pinned up in the break room on that board. These covered everything from the corporate org changes to the red or yellow product recall information notices and the specials for the week ahead. I'd take these notices and I'd stick them up on the pin-up board using one of those little thumbtacks that always used to fall on the floor. This was all part of my weekly tasks. While this may seem antiquated today, and let's face it, it is, the beauty of the pin-up board was that on that same board, information was posted by anybody who worked at the store for everything and anything that was going on, whether it be a staff holiday party or a barbecue that one of the staff was having at their house in the following week. It may have been analog, but it was democratized, and I knew as a member of that work community that I could find anything I needed to know about what was going on in our local store right there on that pin-up board. Another great thing about the board was it was always up to date. Because when someone would come in the day after that barbecue, they could just pull that flyer or that handwritten note off the board and put it in the trash. That information was no longer required to be consumed, and anybody could take it down. Digital signage has long replaced the pin-up board in the corporate world, and is a much more scalable and dynamic and engaging way to distribute corporate information across the enterprise. And while it's helped with the speed of top-down information distribution, I often feel it's been to the detriment of hyperlocal information and the information's current relevance to the person standing right in front of that sign. While we've evolved to an arguably more dynamic format of content distribution with digital signage, most deployments suffer from many of the issues that the pin-up board did not. The information in digital signage too often gets stale. It's usually heavily skewed towards what the corporate overlords, and let's face it, in most organizations that's marketing or HR, want you to know. And it rarely has any correlation to what the person standing right in front of it, and that's you, actually needs to know to get your job done. While digital signage provides us the promise and capability of richer and more consistent content distribution, I'd argue that in some ways, and in many implementations I've seen, it's just made it even harder to disseminate information that's really valuable to the employees than before. Because now, there's usually some corporate process or gatekeeper in the way, who has their own schedule to publish information and a timeline that is not in sync with what you or the local office staff need to do. And it's usually a one-size-fits-all situation, where there's one set of content that gets distributed everywhere, leading to a far more approval controls and even less local decision-making or even delegated ability over what gets shared. I was in an office just last week. They had a huge display in the common area running a digital signage app. It was scrolling the local weather, current company stock price, and social media posts. But the local office section, which took up the majority of the real estate on the screen, was totally blank. I asked the local office team there, why was the local office content so blank? Their response to me, Michael, it's just too hard to go through the process of approvals to get the content added. so we just don't use it. This can make it really hard to let anybody know there's a pop-up yoga session coming up this Tuesday, or there's a happy hour to celebrate a big deal that we just signed last Thursday night. It's even worse when a customer or a partner or an employee from another office visits and it appears that this workplace is pretty dead and, let's face it, uninspiring. The real power of digital signage isn't in avoiding people stepping on the loose thumbtacks that fell on the floor from the pinup board, or in being able to distribute the extra cool corporate video that marketing just made. The real value of digital signage in the workplace, I believe, is achieved when you can very easily make the relevant information your people find valuable, readily available with a minimal amount of effort from a centralized administration. And more of the time, the relevant information is hyper-local. Your amazing Super Bowl ad only changes once a year, but the upcoming events change every single week, and the menu for the cafeteria changes every day, along with different clients that you might have visiting or other people you want to welcome to the workplace. Different types of content has different publishing cadence, and it's usually content with the fastest cadence, the information that changes most regularly, that has the most relevance to the people in your office. This doesn't mean you don't put up the corporate marketing videos or the message from the CEO. It means mixing this global content with local content, but also picking and choosing what content is relevant to show on which displays across each space in the workplace. Now, to do this, I believe it's important to break apart the content and the distribution strategy. Why? Because I believe they're two very different things. And to be successful, allow you to scale and be relevant to your audiences, breaking these apart is the secret. Let me explain. In many organizations, digital signage may be just considered a few displays in the lobby. But in essence, I believe you should think about it as any digital display in the workplace. For each display or type or location of display, there's likely a set of information that is relevant to the intended audience at the physical point that they are in the workplace. And the content that's relevant to even one single person is almost certainly going to be different depending on the current personal workflow that person is in. For example, when I'm in the cafe before lunchtime, seeing the specials of the day are important. But when I'm waiting in the elevator lobby, maybe it's the news of the day or the company's social media feed, mixed together with the status of public transport or outages on any of the major traffic routes heading to popular residential areas. But maybe we only show this information after 2 p.m. Maybe it's the events of the day or the week in the reception area. Or more relevant in today's workplaces, where there's desks, offices, or meeting rooms that are available for the coming next 15 or 30 minutes. Now, this to me is the distribution strategy. What information do you want to display on what screens or endpoints in the environment and at what times? This is something that can generally be defined once for the office and should be able to stay relatively static moving forward. Separate to the distribution strategy is the actual content that you're going to display on the screen. Today, too many digital signage deployments I see are rotating a set of static content, usually some type of PowerPoint, and if you're a little more advanced, maybe that Super Bowl ad. The challenge with this is it's static, and as an employee, once I've seen it, I'm done, and the real estate on the wall holds no more value to me. You should be looking to move more towards sets of dynamic content. And when I say dynamic, I don't mean flashier. I mean dynamic in information source. Just today, before recording this episode, I saw a photo on LinkedIn of a new office opening. They had balloons, there was a party going on, it was great. In the photo was a cardboard sign on an easel placed right in front of a digital sign on the wall. The digital sign was displaying some information on corporate wellness. The cardboard sign, however, had the agenda for the day printed on it. Now, you can't tell me this makes any sense. Why was the agenda not on the digital sign? With a dynamic content strategy, which is the second piece of the puzzle, content is served from separate multi-purpose systems into a signage distribution platform. This has many positive benefits for both your people and for those that are managing the system. While the Signage platform could be the content repository for certain information, being able to easily augment this with external content sources is where I believe the real power lies. Firstly, you can provide a much richer set of content with no extra effort in this model, and authorship of what gets published can be delegated closer to those that manage the space or the service that's providing the information. Real-time information can also be fed into the system to provide virtually up-to-the-second data on things like space availability, location of movable devices in the office. Your catering system can also feed into it if the specials of the day is sold out or if there's a metro line that's out of service in the local area. Separating in your design and planning stage content from distribution allows you to then also dynamically mix content sources on different target displays. As an example, displays in all corporate cafes may be showing the latest corporate commercial, defined and controlled by our friends in corporate marketing, today's cafe specials, controlled and updated by the local cafe staff, or even better, fed directly from their catering system, and local office social events, managed by your friendly workplace team. In this model of distributed administration, each piece of content can be more dynamic, and the management and approval overhead is far lower. The cafe manager should not need approval or help from the workplace manager to update the menu information. Some of this exact same content, such as today's specials or local events, can also be surfaced in a workplace mobile app and even out on the corporate website too. All of this can be done without any extra effort. The same content engines should be able to feed both. One source of data, multiple ways to access it. Now, we can take things even a few steps further with integration into real-time information systems. Say we're arriving at the office today and we walk into the lobby. There's a display there that may be showing the latest corporate announcements. Probably not the cafe specials, but likely a list of available workspaces or meeting rooms, as well as the latest information from marketing. Maybe you choose to also display the ambient temperature or even noise levels across different areas of the floor plate in the office. While many building operators try to aim for perfect consistency across the floor, if you ask your people, you'll likely find that some of them will prefer to sit in warmer areas and others in cooler. Others feel more productive in louder, more active workplaces than quiet areas. You can display this information in real time on the digital sign and provide your people with really valuable, up-to-date information that will make their workday in the office more enjoyable and productive. Separating content from distribution enables you to define these frameworks and have the data customized in real time for each site, floor, or location that makes sense. You can even get hyper-local and use the displays inside and outside of the meeting rooms to show information not only about the room schedule, but about air quality characteristics, number of people in the room, or any other thing that your people may find valuable at that particular point in the workflow during the day. AppSpace and Metricus just released a great demo of this in action. If you're interested to see it, check it out using the link smarterspaces.live/AppSpace demo. I'll also leave a link in the show notes too. When you pivot your thinking away from digital signage being a siloed solution to display video and images on a screen, and think about it as first a distribution mechanism for any content source, it allows you to think more deeply about what the person who you believe will be standing in front of each display will find most value at the particular point of their workday and their journey through the office. You can then source each component of that information from relevant data sources to display it to them. And when you do this, you open up an entire new world of possibilities. These enable you to bring more value to the content consumer, reduce the administrative burden of content management by delegating management of different information sources or channels to different groups within the enterprise, and enables a mix of real-time, hyper-local, and corporate information to be disseminated to the same display, often in the same view. To implement a successful digital signage strategy, you need to pivot from thinking about what you want to tell the target audience to providing the information they'll want to know in the context of where they are and what they're most likely doing right then when they're standing in front of the screen. In this scenario, they're also far more likely to consume and retain the information as it's more relevant to the current context of the person. With this change in thinking, and to get the maximum value out of this strategy, you also need to take into consideration space design with your architect and designer in a different way. It's not just a matter of making space for a digital sign on a wall. It's knowing what information is going to be pushed out on each of those individual displays and where the content is going to be coming from. Every screen you put in should have a purpose, and that purpose should be to add value to the person that's standing in front of it in the moment that they happen to be during the day. Context here is everything. This is one example area where a master systems integrator can add a huge amount of value to your workplace design and construction project. And it's one of the roles I personally enjoy taking on with the companies I have the pleasure to work with. Digital signage should be a way for you to add more value to your employees and not just a faster, more consistent way to blast out corporate propaganda. The good news is, you can combine the best of the context and ownership of the pinup board I used to use in that supermarket break room with the digital dynamic data that's available today. You can create a digital signage deployment that addresses the wishes of the corporation and delivers real value to the day-to-day activities of your people. It just takes a little extra planning, but get it right and you'll see the engagement levels of your people in the workplace go through the roof. So that's a wrap on another episode of Creating Smarter Spaces. Whether you're a first-time listener or have been a subscriber or follower of the show since its launch, I want to say a heartfelt thank you for tuning in. I hope you got value out of this episode, and if you did, it would be amazing if you took 2 minutes to leave a review of the show on our new website, smarterspaces.live/reviews. Here you'll find the consolidation of all the podcast episodes, as well as my blog post that formerly lived on Medium. You can also sign up to the mailing list that will make sure that you'll get alerted about not only the podcast, but any blog posts that go up. So please check it out while you're there. Word of mouth is everything for helping to grow the reach of this show. And leaving your feedback on the site for others to see helps me get the word out. As always, if you want to chat, smarterspaces.live/connect is how you can find me on LinkedIn. You can follow along with my daily musings or shoot me a personal note if there's something specific you want to discuss. For those that have reached out with compliments and feedback on the show so far, thank you so much. It really does mean the world to me. And if I haven't heard from you yet, I'd love to. So please, don't be shy. This episode was produced with the support of iIdea, a pioneer in smart workplace technology. iIdea's innovative devices, including room booking panels and kiosks, are enhancing millions of workspaces globally. Their solutions not only improve space utilization, but also align with ESG goals. With features like on-the-spot room reservations and automatic release of unoccupied spaces, iIdea's technology optimizes workplace efficiency and energy use. Chosen by leading enterprises for their open platform flexibility and strong security standards, iIdea is recognized by HID Global and approved by Apple for Apple Wallet access control. Discover more about their smart workplace solutions at www.iadea.com. So that's a wrap on today's episode. But before we leave today, just a reminder, I make this podcast for you. So if it's something you like and feel others would too, please consider leaving a review on your podcast platform of choice or share it with a colleague or friend. Not sure how to? Not a problem. Just point them to smarterspaces.live/listen and all the options will be available right there. As always, one final disclaimer, all views and opinions I share on this podcast are my own and may not necessarily be those of my employer. I trust you've enjoyed today's topic and I hope you'll tune in for another episode soon. This is where real estate, facilities management and technology converge. This is Creating Smarter Spaces.